Okay, so today we're going to discuss the measures of central tendency for the mean of the group data. Okay, let's focus only on the mean of the group data. Okay, so before we discuss, let us have first the following objectives. So later on, we're going to make sure that we can achieve the following objectives. So the first one is we're going to differentiate ungrouped and group data. And the second one is we're going to solve the mean of the group data with at least 75% proficiency level. Okay, so just to have a short recall, let's compare the two sets. When can we say that the data are ungrouped and the data are grouped? Okay, so take a look at this. We can say that the data are ungrouped if these are just written this way, meaning they are not organized. They don't have categories or classifications. While when we speak about group data, so actually we have done this before already, how to set up a frequency distribution table. Okay, so when we speak about group data, it is presented using categories of scores or classification of scores through table, and that is frequency distribution table. Now, as you can see, we have here the classification of scores, wherein the class interval is, or the size of the class interval is 5, and the frequencies are as follows, a total of 40. So this is this presentation can be considered as group data. Okay. So the mean for the group data is given by the formula x bar equals the summation of fx divided by n. Okay, so x bar is the mean itself, x is the midpoint or class mark of each class interval. Remember that the last time we discussed already about the parts of the frequency distribution table, we are in x, or the midpoint has been discussed. So I believe you already know how to determine the midpoint or the class mark of each class interval. F is the frequency of each class interval. So these are the number of occurrences of each score which fall in each classification or categories of scores. Summation of fx is the sum of the products of f and x. So you have to multiply f and x. Then you add all the results to get the summation of fx. N is the total number of cases. It is the sum of all the frequencies of each class interval. Okay, so here are the steps on how to get the mean of the group data. So first one is we're going to get the midpoint or class mark of each class interval. How? We know that if to determine the midpoint or the class mark, we simply add the lower limit and the upper limit and divide it by 2. So that is a very basic step on how to get the midpoint or the class mark. Next is we're going to multiply the midpoint. Whatever the midpoint of each class interval will be multiplied to the corresponding frequency to get fx. After which, we're going to add all the product of fx to obtain summation of fx. Then, whatever the result in our summation of fx, we simply divide that by the total frequency or the value of n, and the result is already the mean. That's all. Okay? So let's take this one as our first example. Complete the table and then solve for the mean. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to determine the class mark of each class interval. Again, let me just remind you that to determine the midpoint, all you have to do is to add the lower and the upper limit divided by 2. So 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2, 7 plus 11 divided by 2, 12 plus 16 equals divided by 2, and so on and so forth until you reach 47 plus 51 equals divided by 2. for you to have the following values. Okay, next, after having these values or the midpoint in each class interval, you are going to multiply the corresponding frequency with the value of x. So that will be 1 times 49 will be written here. 2 times 44 equals 4 times 39 equals until you get to up until you reach 2 times 4 to obtain the following. Okay, after getting all the product of fx, you are going to add all these values here to obtain summation of fx, and that is 1045. Now, since we already have the value of n and the summation of fx, we can now solve for the mean. Again, it is given by the formula x bar equals the summation of fx divided by n. So if we are going to substitute the value of summation of fx, which is 1045, and the value of n, which is 40, we will obtain 1045 divided by 40, or mean is equal to 26.13. Any questions so far? None? Okay, so let's proceed to the next example. Okay, again, I want you to fill out all the values of x here and then multiply the result here with the corresponding frequency to obtain fx. Okay, so we have the following values of x: 34, 31, 28, 25, 22, 7. So multiplying 3 and 34, 5 and 31, and so on up to 3 and 7, we obtain the following. Again, after getting all these values, may I remind you that you are simply going to add all the values to obtain the summation of fx, and that is equal to 1133. Now, solving for the mean, again, just make use of the formula, substitute, divide, and you have now. That's it. So the mean for these scores is equal to 22.66. I hope everything is clear now. It's much clearer now. Okay? Now, so before we proceed to our activity, let us just first a short recall. Okay? So again, the mean for the group data is given by the formula x bar equals summation of fx divided by n, where n is the total number of cases, x is the midpoint of each class interval, f is the frequency of each class interval, fx is the product of the midpoint times the corresponding frequency. Then, after getting all the product of f and x, we're going to add to obtain the summation of fx, right? And then, to find the mean, substitute the value of summation of fx and the value of n to the given formula, and then that's it. We have now the mean. Okay, so I'm going to give you time to answer the following. Of course, you're going to set up a frequency distribution because all these data here presented are ungrouped. Okay, so I want you to group this one by setting up a frequency distribution table. Now, these are the scores obtained by 45 students in the third quarterly test in Mathematics 7. So, for the purpose of uniformity, I want you to use I, or the size of the class interval, equals to 3. Okay, then after which you're going to find the mean. So, since that was our last slide, I would like to say thank you for your cooperation. I hope that you have learned something today. And for question, just post your comment or questions in the comment box below so that I'm gonna answer that. And for your final answer, by the way, I want you to post that or PM me in my messenger. Okay, so that's all for now. Thank you, keep safe, and have a good day.